Chapter 3, Part 1, The Wildwood. The Mole had long wanted to make the acquaintance of the Badger. He seemed to be such an important personage, but whenever the Mole mentioned his wish to the Water Rat, he always found himself put off. "Couldn't you ask him here? Dinner or something?" said the Mole. "He wouldn't come," replied the Rat simply. "Badger hates society, and invitations and all that sort of thing." "Well then, supposing we go and call on him?" suggested the Mole. "Oh, I'm sure he wouldn't like that at all," said the Rat, quite alarmed. "He's so very shy. He'd be sure to be offended. Besides, we can't. He lives in the very middle of the wildwood." Mole had to be content with this, and it was not till summer was long over, and cold and frost kept them much indoors, that he found his thoughts dwelling again on the solitary grey badger, who lived his own life by himself in the middle of the wild wood. In the winter-time the Rat slept a great deal. During his short day he scribbled poetry or did small domestic jobs around the house, and, of course, there was always animals dropping in for a chat. Still, the Mole had a good deal of spare time on his hands, and so, one afternoon, when the Rat in his armchair was alternatively dozing and trying over rhymes that wouldn't fit, he formed the resolution to go out and explore the wild wood, and perhaps strike up an acquaintance with Mr. Badger. It was a cold, still afternoon, with a hard, steely sky overhead, when he slipped out of warm parlour into the open air. The country lay bare and entirely leafless around him. With great cheerfulness of spirit he pushed on toward the wild wood, which lay before him low and threatening. There was nothing to alarm him at first. Twigs crackled under his feet, logs tripped him, fungus on stumps startled him for a moment, but that was all fun and exciting. Then the faces began. He thought he saw a little evil face looking out at him from a hole. He quickened his pace, telling himself cheerily not to begin imagining things, or there would be simply no end to it. He passed another hole and another, and then, yes, certainly a little narrow face flashed up and was gone. He hesitated and strode on. Then suddenly there were hundreds of them, coming and going rapidly, all hard-eyed and evil and sharp. Then the whistling began. Very faint and shrill it was, and far behind him, when first he heard it. Then it broke out on the other side. They were up and alert and ready, whoever they were, and he was alone and far from help, and the night was closing in. Then the pattering began.